Okay, so let's launch into this. Maximum impact. So this term force multiplier, for those of you who might not have heard it, it's a very common one used in military environments. And of course, the notion is if you have just a limited force, how might you project your limited force in a way that makes it seem as if you have a much larger force? So obviously, back in the early days of World War I, when they first had aircraft covering the battlefield and surveying the battlefield, that ended up being a force multiplier for the ground troops, just to give you a sense there. So I contend that there are similar force multipliers for project portfolios, and that's going to be the focus of today's webinar. Cool. So I want to make a promise to everyone, and that is to inspire and excite you on this topic. Think of the terms like project management. It doesn't always come across as a terribly inspirational or exciting topic at first blush. Of course, for people like me, it's extraordinarily inspirational and exciting to impart upon the audience today. Said that, if you're already come inspired and excited, I figured I'd offer you something beyond this, since I will have already met that promise, right? And that is to wild-eyed stretch goal. So my wild-eyed stretch goal for this session is actually to help you feel like you can improve humankind. You can advance humankind by improving project portfolio performance, which is really, in my mind, the same thing as organizational performance. Again, and to do so dramatically. We're not talking 10%, 20%. We're talking double, triple, and beyond. Okay, so in fact, for those of you who offer feedback to this session, I'd actually be curious to hear from you if I met the promise and the wild-eyed stretch goal. And please don't be extra kind or charitable. Offer the right level of scrutiny to see whether I genuinely reached this goal, this promise and the stretch goal. Okay, if I'm going to help you be really high-impact leaders to the point where you can advance humankind, I thought it would be only fair to start out with explaining what I mean, because this term high impact is thrown around a lot. And the more it's thrown around, it tends to have some of its meaning diluted. There was another term that was not yet diluted, so I figured let's just make clear what I mean when I say high impact. For examples, this first one, the major events of September 11th, but very few of us are actually familiar a very important piece of what happened that day, which is that it was the largest sea lift rescue carried out in human history. For three buffs, you might know about the 1940 evacuation of Dunkirk, successfully ferried 339,000 British and French soldiers across the English Channel to safety right before Hitler was able to basically land what would have been the final crushing blow of the war. Somewhat astonishingly to those of us who might not have heard, there were more people trapped in lower Manhattan on 9/11 with no way to get off the island except and they did open the bridges, and many of us saw the images on TV of folks walking across the Brooklyn Bridge, for example, between 9 in the morning, or shortly before 9 when the attack started, and I guess around 2 to 2:30 in the afternoon. There was no way on or off the island except by boat. Note, I said rescued 35 times more people per hour. So not only was it the largest, but it was also the highest throughput. It's pretty amazing, right? Because we always think the larger you are, the slower you must be, right? And the harder it is to move quickly. If you look at the rescue throughput, right, the number of people rescued per hour, 1,500 people at Dunkirk, pretty impressive. 9/11 was more than that, pretty incredible, almost 55,000 people per hour. So that's one example. Oh, by the way, if you're curious to learn more about this story, there is a great YouTube video that came out for the 10th anniversary of 9/11, so it's already about 5.5 years old. That gentleman there, Captain Michael Day of the Coast Guard, I had the distinct pleasure of interviewing him and learning more about how he pulled all this off. You can see the fine print there. There's even a keynote presentation I gave about a year ago that was video recorded, and you can check out details there. That's the first example. Second one, Blush seem a bit more mundane, right? This is just a pharmaceutical company talking about the life-saving drugs that it brought to market. And over the span of a few years, they managed to double that number without actually spending any more money. Over time, that could actually have a much bigger life-saving impact than the 9/11 field rescue, even if it doesn't at first blush seem quite as dramatic. That's two. Number three, us who are closer to the IT and software worlds, right? Like most of us on this webinar, heard of this story, right? Amazon software not quite 10 times a day, which for most of us would seem pretty incredible already. And organizations that don't deploy new software more than like once a week. Large organizations with massive software footprints are still very hesitant to make changes, right? And so if you look at the little Amazon logo and imagine that that's 10 times a day deploying new software, visual to compare to what 7,000 times a day would look like. And then the last example I want to share with you, nice high impact, is SpaceX. My career in the space industry, worked for NASA for quite a few years, cut my teeth in program and project management there. Even though that was now, the promise that we had with the space shuttle program going back to the 70s when it was designed was that we would lower the cost to low Earth orbit. And that if we could lower the cost dramatically, we could do a whole lot more in space and potentially even make space something that tourists could go to. In search of knowledge of the universe and scientific discoveries and things, which is the primary purpose. Well, SpaceX, a commercial company, showed up years, decades after NASA and other space agencies around the world have been trying to get this cost down for years and years, and actually not only succeeded, but succeeded wildly and made a profit in the process. So if you look at the history, these, I'll admit, are estimates since some of the cost figures are proprietary, owned by companies like Lockheed and Boeing. In general, a lot of the research backs up these estimates that, yeah, you know, since 1960, about every 10 years, we would knock cost off of things. But then, bam, all of a sudden, SpaceX started in 2002, and by 2010, they had reduced the cost by 5 times. And they actually think in the next 8 years, so by 2025, they can get it down to $100 per pound. And they've actually already booked a couple super secret celebrities have booked their flights as the first commercial space tourists that SpaceX will have. And they expect to go into space sometime between now and 2020. So kind of neat. Okay, give you a taste of what I'm talking about. I think, again, some of these...
Hi there, I hope you enjoyed that last clip. My name is Michael Maludis, and if you'd like to watch the full 60 minutes of that last webcast, while also getting complete unlimited access to our entire library of IT learning, simply visit our subscribe page at greatpro.org/subscribe. Unlimited annual access is $199 per year, but if you use the coupon code LEARN2EARN, you can drop that membership fee to just $149. That's less than $13 per month for unlimited access to over 1,000 hours of on-demand career development, covering the entire spectrum of IT management best practices, including business analysis and requirements, software development, quality and testing, risk management, process improvement, project management, and even digital transformation. But your membership doesn't just give you unlimited access to our vast learning library. You also get free access to our mobile app, as well as direct access to our network of over 300 of the world's leading IT consultants, all of whom are dedicated to putting practical knowledge at your fingertips so that you can learn more and earn more. I hope you will join me in becoming a member of the Great IT Professional and advancing your career with us. And if you're on YouTube, don't forget to hit that subscribe button above so that you get notified whenever we publish new free webcasts each week of the year. Thank you for your time and best wishes for your continued success.